Bill helped John pull the contents out of the box and the large bag they had carried into the empty house, immediately recognising the contents. Bill had seen enough of the clothing in another life. The box had several pairs of boots for him to try. Comfortable boots were always a must. After donning the camouflage trousers and a good pair of government-issue wool socks, Bill found the pair which fitted best. Bill had sat around dressed like this on more occasions than he cared to remember. John took a couple of calls in quick succession while Bill explored the kit available. It was instinctive how he put together what he needed for a couple of days in a quiet woodland location. A knock at the door startled Bill. John looked as if he was expecting it and went to answer. Bill only had to wait for a few moments. He heard no exchange of pleasantries at the door. Someone had come and gone without much said. John walked into the living room and handed Bill a gun case. It was a camouflage single long gun holdall, the sort any sporting shotgun owner might be seen taking from the boot of his car on a Sunday morning anywhere across the country, at the many sporting clay pigeon shooting grounds. Bill, like all craftsmen, was straight into the tool bag. He drew out the Remington semi-automatic gas-operated 12-gauge. It was the 1187 model with the magazine modification for an additional 3 rounds and was the tool for the job. John handed Bill 2 boxes of cartridges. Bill looked at the labels. Number 7.5 shot, fibre wad, and magnum loads. The fibre wad would disintegrate and leave less information than the modern plastic wadding about its origin. Bill checked the gun's mechanism. It was smooth and well oiled. The weapon looked new. The smooth bore was clean and had no trace of recent firing. Bill looked at John, who nodded. Bill filled the magazine and set the safety to on, then off, then on again. He manually operated the mechanism and ejected the round into the chamber. Then let the mechanism run forward again. It loaded a round into the chamber from the magazine, again ready to fire. Bill went through every round, letting them eject onto the sofa unfired, after closely inspecting every cartridge and rejecting one of them, which he replaced with another he chose from the box. Bill loaded the weapon slowly, feeding the cartridges into the magazine and one up the spout. The weapon was cocked, loaded, and ready to go. Bill then emptied the weapon again, let the hammer fall on the empty chamber, listening for the click of the trigger. All good. The selected cartridges went into one pocket, the rejected one he left out. But after examining the rest in the box, he slipped them into various pockets. I'm going to have to drop the hammer on a live round somewhere between here and there. I have to know. Sorry, but it's a ritual. I'd look a right twat if I jump out and all it gets a dull click. Bill, it's your show. If you ain't happy, then you stop it whenever you want, mate. You know the objective, and you know what these bastards are capable of. Success is key. We know there ain't going to be any robbery, as the plane ain't coming. So there'll always be another day. Obviously, you know it's me they're going to come looking for on Friday to confirm when it's due, and I'll look a right cunt when I have to tell them I've fucked up. But there'll be other chances. It's just how many more casualties will there be until we get another opportunity like this? Look, John, if they pull up and I get the shot, I'll take it. I'm as committed as anyone on this. Remember, I've had to sit and listen to what these fuckers have been up to for months. Okay, good. Then let's go through where we are on the map. Then I reckon we'll get you over there before it gets dark. I've had a good look around the place and I've got some good aerial photographs here as well. Just to let you know, the surveillance from Basildon CID was pulled this morning and they know it's been lifted. Or rather, Tucker does. The bent copper porky is going to meet him around 6. With the evening traffic flows, they'll be in the lane just after 7, we estimate. As far as we know, we expect Tate and Tucker at the moment. Tate is on his way to meet Tucker, and Tate doesn't know yet that the surveillance is off, but he will do very shortly. We are certain Tucker got the message from Sergeant Green, and he spent the last hour running his own version of counter-surveillance. Apparently, he's had the tech guys in stitches. Someone's hooked into the same live feed your colleagues are listening to at the moment. So any developments, and I'll get a call from Mr. P. He's directly in the loop on this one. Bill had 1,000 questions for John, but his army head was running things now, and he wouldn't ask any. It was operational detail he wanted, nothing else to waste time thinking on. So they got to the map and the photos. Looking at the aerial photos, it was plain to Bill that considerable thought had gone into the operation. He'd seen aerial photography of terrain he'd then have to operate on. Usually others had dictated the terrain, and often there had been obstacles. From what he now saw, he reckoned the location had been well chosen. Bill wondered how many hours had been spent trawling the Essex countryside to find the perfect spot to exterminate 3 or more of the country's most notorious villains. It was mid-afternoon. They were drinking tea and planning to head out in the next 30 minutes. John took a call. He gave Bill the thumbs up, then ended the call. All right, Bill, now Tucker and Tate are together. They're both confident the surveillance is gone, there's no question of that. Tate's just called Rolf and they'll be going there tonight, that's the general opinion. Tucker has a blue Range Rover, and it's almost a certainty it will be the motor that they use, now that they don't think anyone's out there looking for them. I would say that's probably your best bet of a soft target. Now, Rolf usually gets the driving job when these lot are together, and there's no way they'll be tooled up in the motor if they've got old Bill with them. And now Sergeant Green, I just bring him out with me, do I? Well, unless you want to shoot him. Oh, I'm only joking, Bill. Yeah, he'll be like a frightened rabbit. I mean, chances are he'll be stood right in front of the car's headlights when you do it. So you'll have a clear view of him, and he won't know what the fuck's going on. Well, supposing he legs it? It was a sensible question to ask. It's a question I've asked as well. What I can tell you, Bill, is they're pretty spot on with this human nature stuff, and they try and work out how a specific individual will react. The learned opinion is that Sergeant Green will most likely freeze and shit himself. It'll take a few seconds to process what's going on around him, and when his noggin gets up to speed, then he'll probably scream at the top of his voice that he's a police officer. It's the one thing that he thinks might save him. At which point, you can tell the little wanker to do what you want. It means he's folded and hoping just to live through the night. The only other possible option open to him is to set off up the lane, or into the woods away from the car and the light. If he goes that route, then the choice is yours. If you want to let him go, it's not a problem. He's on his own, shouldn't have been there, and if he declares he was, then he's got a whole world of shit to explain. The rest of the organised crime world will be none the wiser, and the fear and uncertainty will be just the same. If he freezes, as we think most likely, then you just settle him down, and he'll come with you. He'll be so fucking confused, he'd do whatever you told him, and to hear a voice and see a face he thinks he knows will be enough to make him cling to you like a puppy dog. They reckon he'll be too scared to even look back at the car. His poor little world would have collapsed all around him. I'll pick you both up, and we'll come back here. I expect they'll send someone to take him for a nice chat, and it'll be the last you or I ever hear about the matter. Bill watched the Land Rover disappear down the muddy track. He slipped the mobile phone John had just given him into an inside pocket. It was on silent. He would feel the thing vibrate next to his body. Only John would call it. As far as he knew, no one else had the number. John's number was programmed in the phone's memory, and the only number on the phone. He would only be 10 minutes away at all times, he had told Bill as they parted. The sky was grey, and the ground was wet. It was cold, and his breath misted. They'd stopped the Land Rover on the outskirts of Chelmsford, almost as soon as they'd cleared civilization. Bill had left the warmth of the vehicle and stepped silently into a wooded glade. He slipped one up the spout, and there was one in the magazine. Bill let the 2 rounds off in reasonably quick succession. Could have been a farmer, out late in the afternoon looking for a bold rabbit on a cold day. 2 rounds, the standard report from a farmer's side-by-side. Nothing to alarm the odd dog walker. They hadn't seen if there was anyone out braving the grey and frosty afternoon. Bill left the gun empty. He would load it sometime shortly after 6. Old habits. No shooter leaves a magazine full or chambered rounds longer than absolutely necessary. The springs weaken, and he gets too comfortable in the wrong positions. Bill now knew it worked. The Remington was considered one of the most reliable shotguns on the market. He had work to do, and serious work needed a serious tool. The Heckler Koch MP5 would have been the tool of choice for Bill. It was somehow cleaner and would do the job in a more surgical way. But the Remington would get the job done and create the scene he had been asked for. It would add to the gore and leave more questions than answers for the target audience. The light had faded fast. Sunset was officially just before 4, but with the high waxing gibbous moon in the east, the whole countryside had quickly taken on a surreal greyness. The cloud cover was thickening, and although Bill's eyes had adjusted to the darkness, it was now hard to make things out at any distance. The place was perfect for the purpose to which it was now intended. Anyone arriving along the overgrown track would only see what the car's headlights picked out. Bill paced the ground, assuming the car would stop a little short of the gate, to allow the headlamps to light the area clearly, so the electric gate opener could see what he was doing, and the car's habitually suspicious occupants could see him. Bill was careful to stay off the main track. He didn't want to leave a fresh set of footprints. He was probably on overkill, as he doubted the car's occupants had any real tradecraft. But they weren't fools. They had a natural animal cunning, and it had served them well up to this point. Bill needed to approach the car from the side and behind. He wanted to get into a firing position with the firing arc to kill or seriously maim all the occupants of the vehicle with the first 3 rounds he fired. The best he could hope for was the gate opener would open a rear door, It would keep two men in the front, improving his angle of shot into their bodies. He figured the driver had to go first. The last thing he needed was the powerful 4x4 taking off down the track, probably mowing down Sergeant Green in the process. Bill opted to approach the vehicle on the driver's side from the rear quarter. He would put the first round accurately into the upper neck dead centre on the driver, and it should be fatal at the range of around 5 or 6 feet. Destroy the medulla oblongata and negate any reflex reaction to push the pedals in the car. The gun would then track left, finding the next target. It might be the occupant of the front seat, it might be a passenger in the rear seat. He figured if Porky was in the rear, whatever side he got out of wouldn't make a difference. If the door was left open on his side, he would hit the front passenger next and track on through to the guy sat along the rear seat. If Porky got out of the other side of the rear door, then he would be shooting in through the window and take the rear passenger next. You might have to step forward and shoot through the driver's window to hit the front passenger. It would be quick, and however they loaded the vehicle, he had a shooting solution which involved smooth and steady movement in one direction. It would be efficient and achieve the desired outcome with the first 3 shots. Bill would step from the shadows unseen. He would move forward along the vehicle's driver's side. The gun would track in a steady anti-clockwise arc, away from Porky Green's location as the rounds were discharged. Bill was comfortable with the firing solution. He hadn't bothered with making a hide and was instantly at home in the shadows of the woodland. He decided if he didn't get the shot that evening, he would drop deeper into the scrub and make a small layup for the next day. He would get an update from John if anything changed. A light drizzle fell. Bill felt more at home than he thought he would. He had missed things he didn't realise he remembered. His mind wandered to a lonely place far away in the South Atlantic. For the first time in years, he thought of Sergeant Angus Peacock and wondered what he'd make of it all. The time drifted by. Bill checked the small mobile, the light of the screen temporarily spoiling his night vision. He would remember to close one eye the moment he saw the Range Rover's lights. The time was just after 6, and time to load the Remington. The chosen cartridges, smooth, no ridges or burrs on the end caps to catch on the ejection mechanism. The magazine full. Bill let the slide go. It scooped up a round. Bill squeezed another into the magazine to replace it. 7 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. He flipped the safety off. Bill had already applied the camo cream all over his face and neck. He pulled the green wool hat down to keep him warm. His ears deliberately stuck out from under the hat's rim. Hearing is a far better sense to rely on in the dark. Bill was invisible to the human eye in the shadows, his human form indiscriminate amongst the vegetation. He'd done this before many times, and knew how to be comfortable and immobile for long periods. Again, it was overkill. He would hear the heavy Range Rover crashing along the rough track, see its lights long before they could ever have known he was there. He could have ducked out of sight at the last minute. It wasn't the way they operated. He was doing it the way he'd been trained, and it made everything easier. No big picture to concern himself, everything on automatic. The trigger had already been pulled. He had been sent. Nothing but a phone call from John to abort would stop him achieving the objective. If the target arrived in the designated time frame, then it was inevitable. He would be walking out with or without Sergeant Green, and the rest would be history. Whoever was left in the car would never be heard from again over an Atlanta Boulevard, or anywhere else for that matter. Bill saw the lights before he heard the crunch of the gravel and mud under the wheels of the heavy 4x4. He never had to move anything more than his eyes. He was comfortable and ready. He shut one eye, the right one. His left eye fed the information to his brain. The peripheral vision disappeared as the car's headlights bathed the track in front of and around the vehicle. The big off-roader slowed as the driver approached the gate. It was just past Bill's chosen spot as it came to a halt. Bill kept the right eye closed and allowed his head to rotate very slowly to follow the car with the open left eye. He couldn't see how many were in the car. The windows were dark, and the car's headlights had reduced his ability to see in the shadows. Bill heard the door latch over the rumble of the now idling V8. The door swung open. It was the rear door nearest to Bill. He still hadn't moved anything other than a gentle rotation of his head as he tracked the passing vehicle. He saw the familiar portly figure of Sergeant Green step out cautiously onto the muddy track, worried about his shoes. Bill remained motionless. The fat sergeant made his way slowly into the light at the front of the vehicle. The empty open rear door gave Bill a clear view into the car. The interior light illuminated the three occupants. He could see the back of the driver's head. It was Rolf. Bill let Green reach the gate, then slowly stood like a wraith in the shadows. Before Bill moved forward slowly, he looked down and opened the right eye. The night vision was still good in that eye, and he could clearly see the ground beneath his feet. He stepped silently forward. He knew Green was between him and the car. The lights would make it impossible for Green to see him. Sound was Bill's only enemy. An alert ear will catch an unexpected sound. The crack of a twig, the scuff of a boot. Bill knew the ground was clear. He'd made sure. As he let his gaze drift up, he was just coming into the light pool cast by the car's interior lights. The gun kicked. The shot was deep into the neck of Rolf, long before his ears registered the report of the Remington. Bill took another steady measured pace and fired as he moved, adjusting the shooting angle left into the side of the head in the front seat. Who at that moment he registered was Tony Tucker. Still moving, body going forward and gun arching left, it was a straight shot in through the open door. Tate was probably the only one who knew he was getting shot as it happened. Bill knew it was over. He knew the shots had found their targets. The shotgun round makes a mess, and it didn't shut Tate down immediately. He'd gotten it side on, and some vital organs functioned a fraction longer. Bill wasn't a cruel man. He had a job to do, and a statement to make. Not for him, but for others. So he emptied the weapon. Round 7 was a dud. Bill smoothly cleared the cartridge, slipped another from his pocket into the magazine, and dropped the hammer. The mechanism smoothly ejected the spent round and picked up round 9. Green was already stood stock still at the gate, pleading that he was a policeman. Bill knew the man had collapsed emotionally, so he dropped the hammer and let the last cluster of lead shot rip Pat Tate's face open. The weapon was empty. Cocked, he let the mechanism slide forward. Nothing left to collect from the magazine. Chamber empty. Job done. Why the idiot was stood with his hands up was a mystery. He'd obviously watched westerns as a kid. Face down, arms out, legs spread was the modern version of surrender. Bill pushed a confused police officer along the track in front of him. He could smell the tang of the urine over the cordite in the cold air. Green's pants had been visibly steaming when he'd stood in the headlights of the car. Bill had turned the car's ignition and lights off with his gloved hand and gently shut the door. The car looked like it was parked up for the night and the occupants were all having a nap. He called John, who answered immediately. 15 minutes later and Bill was in the warm Land Rover, with a very quiet, damp and confused Sergeant Green on the seat behind.